Showtime. Welcome to the show. I'm Brent Holland. Welcome one and all to Night Fright. Tonight, folks, settle in, get comfy. Got a true ghost story for you tonight. Big Bear Lake Demon, a true haunting, and it is terrifying, folks. So settle in, get the coffee going, get the tea going, get a juice going, get whatever beverage you want tonight going. Next hour, you're going to be taking on one heck of a true haunting. Let me just read this from our guest tonight. Her name is Jodi Polis. She has a book out, by the way, folks, called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake, and we'll talk some more about that as well. But just let me read this for a second. Big Bear Lake, California is a 4-star resort ski community for the rich and elite. Whoever runs what gets out past the locals has been hiding things for over the last 125 years. Big Bear is a paranormal hotspot, and with the things that I found out, no wonder why. My twin and I moved into a house that was not just haunted, folks. People were hurt, attacked, and we're going to get there tonight without question. When we moved, it followed. Oh man, goosebumps. Whew. As we grew up, it, quote unquote, seemed to attach to my twin's life, and I believe it killed her. Settle in, folks, this is for real. After she died, my family became the target of the supernatural attacks, and they have never stopped. Everything is true. Don't go anywhere, folks. Strap in and hang on. Here we go.
There is a time for question. There is a time for answers. There is a time to challenge. There is a time to speculate. There is a time for change. There is a time for truth. The time is now. Welcome to Night Fright, your voice in the dark for paranormal and conspiracy. And now your host, Brent Holland.
Welcome one and all. Welcome to Night Fright. I'm Brent Holland. I'm your host. Settle in, folks, right away. The next hour is going to be riveting. It's the true haunting of a family that took place in Big Bear, California. Our guest tonight, Jodi Polis, is author of a new book out called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. Big Bear Lake, folks, it's called the Big Bear Demon, and it's a true haunting. Jodi, I want to welcome you to the show for the first time. Thank you so much for having the courage to come on our show tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about what led to the death of your sister?
What led to her death was, I believe, nothing short of paranormal and supernatural behind it. When she died, she had a diary, and it was found after she had passed away. And in her diary, she had written about dark figures that were coming after her and that they were going to kill her. And she knew that she was going to die from them. And I didn't even know this. I didn't even know she'd had the diary, nor that she'd written that or believed that. We knew there was something terribly wrong. But the diary was found, and someone has it put away. They don't know where it is at the time, right now, but it is out there. And she died basically of natural causes, technically, at only 34 years old. Her heart just stopped. And as we discuss the books, I'll explain what happened to her. But she was 5'6", and at the time of her death, she only weighed, I think it was 78 pounds.
Oh my God.
It was as if something was just absorbing her life force from her. And she was having massive seizures chronically, and she would just fall to the ground and start cursing on the ground and contorting. and eventually she just passed away. It was just is horrific.
Jodi has emailed me a bunch of photos, folks. One of them you're going to be looking at now is the interior of a room, is the living room photo, I call it. And what happened, folks, was when she walked in, Jodi's sister, the house had been blessed, and I'm going to let Jodi pick up the story from there. Can you tell us what happened when your sister walked in this room?
Sure. My sister had no idea that we had just had the house blessed recently, because we were having some problems with supernatural things flying off of shelves and just really scary things happening. So she did not know this, but we called the pastor, and a team of pastors came with him as well. They blessed our house. They focused heavily on the entryway, which is the picture that you have. Mm-hmm. And right there you'll see a photograph that's got a collage of pictures in it. Yeah, right there against the wall. Now, right in that area was where they did all of the blessings. Well, Jamie came in through the entryway and just stopped dead in her tracks right there and was staring at the picture. And this happened on my daughter's birthday. There were at least 20, maybe 25 people present when this happened. And she stopped and stared at the picture, and then all of a sudden started spinning in circles, full blast, just turning and stomping her feet. One of my daughters screamed, as well as somebody else, as they saw her doing this, and it was something just not even out of Exorcist. She was just spinning in circles, stomping her feet. As we ran to see what was happening, then all of a sudden she hit the ground and started contorting, started cursing. My husband ran to hold her so she did not bite her tongue, and then I called 911. It made no sense that this even happened. She had no idea that the house had been blessed, much less that entryway had been the main focus of it. And after that, things just got so much worse for Jamie.
Folks, we're speaking with Jodi Polis tonight. She's got a book out called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. What we're talking about right now is some true events that took place in her life. One of them being what happened with her sister, who passed away, unfortunately. You know, Jodi, I've had a young woman on who went through a sanctioned Roman Catholic exorcism. What you're describing is very similar to what she went through, what you're describing with your sister. Mm-hmm. When you approached the clergy to come into the home, to bless the home, what was their reaction to? Did you tell them that there was a lot of things going on in the house at the time?
Yeah, we did. We told them that we were having issues with a lot of just bizarre things, and they didn't doubt us. They had no question, no doubt about it, and they came right over and blessed the house. And there's a story in the book. It's a Bible college as well at this church, and some Bible college students did come to our house one night to watch our children as me and my husband went out of town for one of his business trips. And I don't know what happened. They refused to tell me, but it was two Bible college student females, but they stayed in the room, which I'll get to in the book. But the TV turned on by itself and it was unplugged. And they refused to tell me what came on the TV. And they called us and told us that there was something wrong with our house. And when we asked them what happened, they said, what we saw was so evil we can't even repeat it. And then that's when I told the pastors to come to the house. They had already known about what had happened with the Bible college students.
So there was no hesitation at all on their part?
No.
They came right over.
Yeah.
What's the history of the house? Is this the house you're in right now, by the way, that you're Skyping from?
No. It was the house previous
in the sketch?
to this.
Okay. What was the history of the house, Jodi? Any idea?
No idea about the house in the sketch, the original house. We have no idea about anything of it other than the property was originally a farm. It was a giant cattle ranch. And in the book, there's also a chapter about there was like an unfinished basement in there. And when me and my sister were in there, we were right there towards the left. Other side. Yeah, there's an unfinished basement right there. And we were putting some boxes away, and we had some shovels, and we were trying to level it out in there, and we came across a bone, and it wasn't not a little bone, it was huge, and we took it out and showed it to the adults in the house, and they looked at it, they thought it was odd, and I don't know what they honestly did with it, but the main gentleman in the book, in the first part of my book, named Tom, he was a meat cutter for a grocery market, and he does believe that it was human. And he saw it, but nobody ever called the police, so there is quite possibly a body in that house. And I've already told the police department about this.
Have they done any investigation at all to try and...
I don't know. I gave them the lead and told them about it, and so I don't know if they have or not.
Jeez, this is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Yeah. Did you ever fear for the life? You mentioned your daughter, it was your daughter's birthday. Did you ever fear for her well-being?
Absolutely.
Is there anything in specific that took place to cause you to feel that way?
Yes. When that happened with Jamie and she came through the door, it seemed to make things a whole lot worse, as if it made whatever it was angry, and it took it out more on my twin. It was.
Please take your... Folks, we're speaking with Jodi Polis tonight. We're discussing her book, Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake, and also some horrifying, diabolic stories that took place in her family, in her old house, including the death of her sister. Please do continue, Jodi. This is just riveting.
Sorry, this part gets a little hard for me to still talk about because
take your time.
It was real, and I saw what it did. Okay.
If you need to stop, not a problem, my friend.
That's all right. Let me just take one more drink.
Okay.
Okay. What happened was after that happened, my twin stayed with us when they released her from the hospital, and it was, I don't know, sometime in the middle of the night, we were all asleep, and I heard some screaming and yelling, and I woke up to see what was going on. So I came out of my bedroom, and the screaming and yelling was coming out of my daughter's room, my oldest daughter at the time. And literally right at the doorway of my daughter's room, I looked, and I saw my twin holding a computer monitor, the old kind, you know, the old heavy ones that they had that were like maybe like 100 pounds. They were huge. She was holding it. Yeah, they're beastie things. Well, she was holding it above her head on her fingertips, above my daughter's head. And she was cursing, holding it to smash down on my daughter's head. And there was nothing I could do. I could not possibly run or stop her from smashing my daughter's head in. And I prayed instantly that God help me, and I yelled, "Oh my God, Jamie, stop!" And instantly, kind of like an owl does, her head was straight ahead, and it turned instantly and stared at me. That was not my sister's face that looked at me. Her eyes were jet black. I'm sorry, but just even thinking about it is still so scary. Her eyes were jet black. Her face was contorted. It was not her face. It was long. It was longer. It was like a gray white. Everything about it was different, and I'm calling it because I don't know what it is. It stared at me, and I just stared at it, knowing that there was nothing I could do. If it was going to smash that monitor into my child, I couldn't stop it. And then instantly, the whole face structure changed on my sister, and it became her face again. Immediately, the computer dropped to the ground, and she looked at me and said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I ran to her and I said, "I don't think you realize what you almost just did." And she ran out of the room crying because she saw that she had just dropped a computer monitor. She had no idea what had happened. And my husband went in and, to settle down my daughter, because at this point she was awake and terrified. And I spoke to my twin and told her what she had done, and she left the house within an hour and said that she would not come to my house again because she had no idea what was wrong with her, and she knows that she almost killed my daughter, and she would not put the jeopardy of the lives of her nieces ever again in harm's way. And I never saw her again after that, and then she ended up passing away not too long after that.
Oh my God. What did you think was wrong with her?
Demonic possession. I'd only seen, movies like The Exorcist, and I didn't, it's not that I didn't doubt that the movie was real, but I didn't think something like that really happened to people, and I knew that that's what I had just witnessed. And she knew that something had happened. She just didn't know what. And it was just absolutely horrifying knowing that something took over her body. And like I said, when she died, she was only 78 pounds. The monitor itself weighed more than her, and she was holding it like it weighed nothing, like a feather on her fingertips. It was physically impossible, but yes, she was doing it. And then she didn't make it too much longer after that.
I'm sorry to hear that. What was the reaction from the family concerning that incident? Your husband, for example, what was his reaction?
He thought for sure the same thing, demonic possession. We had worried that something was possibly like that was wrong when she had done that in the hallway and started spinning and fell to the ground, because we knew the house had just been blessed. She didn't. And we knew that something was supernaturally wrong at that point with her, but we never ever thought that it was something to that extreme. And yeah.
Have you had any precognitions? That's not the word I'm looking for. Any type of closure with her since she's passed? Has she come back to say I'm okay now or anything like that?
No closure.
No closure at all?
No closure. Just nightmares every night. No closure.
What are the nightmares?
The nightmares range from anything from just evil nightmares that she's not who she is, to good. There's some good dreams as well, but it's mostly nightmares that I'm trying to help her, and I can't. And I'm just trying to, whether she's somewhere and I'm trying to just save her. That's basically what the dreams are, is that I'm trying to save her, but I can't. And that's basically what the bottom line is in each nightmare.
Oh my God, it must be so horrible for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the courage to come on the show tonight. Folks, we're speaking with Jodi Polis. Her book is called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. We're also talking about some horrible things that took place in her life, including the death of her sister, as she's just described. What caused you to move out of the house, as if that's not enough? What was there a final moment that said, we've got to get the hell out of here if we're going to survive all this?
The thing with this is that it's never left since we were 15 years old. It all started when we were 15. So this is something that's always been, but never ever to like possession. Things flying off and being flung at us from a shelf. That was something that was actually quite normal. But when it's been happening for so long, you get used to it. Even my daughters are used to this stuff at this point. My daughters, it's in every house we go. It is never left. It just doesn't stop. And honestly, I'm afraid to bring in anybody else ever again, because I feel that maybe I contributed to possession. By bringing in pastors and clergy, it seemed to amplify whatever this thing is, and it took everything to a whole new level. And I feel that it killed her, and I would honestly be afraid to bring in anybody into this house, because I'd be afraid for my children, that maybe it would latch onto one of my children and do the same thing to them.
What are some of the things that are taking place in your house right now where you are?
Consistently things get thrown. We have the door handle turns by itself as if somebody's trying to come in. That was last week. My daughters were here with some friends, and the doorbell rang, and we have a partially open, there's a stained glass door, so you can see who's at the door. Well, there was nobody there, and the girl started screaming, and the doorknob was jiggling on its own trying to open. And I had not told the girls, but this had happened to me about 6 months earlier. Same thing. The dog started barking, and I thought it was my oldest daughter coming home. There was nobody there, and the door was turning by itself, and the dog was just barking and going crazy at the door. And there was nothing there, but I never told my daughters about this. And then it ended up happening about maybe a week and a half ago. And my daughters do not like to be in the house alone. So if we're going out of town, they won't stay. They just won't be here unless they have somebody come over with them. And for some reason, you get hurt real easily here. You get tripped. On my toes were broken. It's like you'll be walking and something just cuts your feet out from underneath you and trips you. And that happens consistently. We had a little girl come over, and she got tripped, busted her ankle. And so kids get hurt here for no reason, and it's like as if something's just tripping them and hurting them. It happens to me consistently. It's just bizarre, and it's totally helpless.
Now, your sister was a twin.
Yes.
You know, we always hear that there's some sort of connection that transcends the normal relationship between a sister and a sister with twins. Do you feel that's a little bit true as well?
Oh, absolutely. In our case, yes.
Can you give us any examples how that may have taken place?
I was just told when we were little that we did not talk for the first, when a regular baby and toddler would be talking, we didn't. I guess we would just sit there and stare at one another and make hand gestures and nod our heads yes and no to one another, as if we were having full conversations.
Wow.
And we were told that consistently from all of our relatives. And so, and me and my sister, when she was still alive, she would have said the same thing. She hurt herself, and she'd actually cracked her head open, needed stitches. But my mind believes it was me that it happened to. And when I suffered an injury, same thing with her. It's as if it's the one and the same. Mm-hmm. Whenever one of us had an injury, the other one is just assured that that happened to them, even though it didn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There was like a telepathic connection going on.
Yeah.
Not only, but feelings as well, and synchronicities that can't be explained. That type of thing. That's incredible. What an incredible story. Yeah. Folks, Jodi Polis, the book is called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. www.nightfrightshow.com. Just click on tonight's guest book cover. We'll take you right to a spot where you can order the book from the comfort of your own home. Stay tuned, folks, because we're going to go even deeper. Now, let's talk about Philip, your husband. He's not well either now.
No, not at all. Not at all. Again, this is something that I believe was another paranormal, supernatural attack. We were coming home, and we had an SUV, and we were doing the speed limit of, I think 70 miles an hour on the freeway, and for absolute no reason, someone ran the stop sign. Now, it was a 2-lane freeway, and there was an entrance to get onto it. Mm-hmm. Well, the person ran the stop sign, crossed lane 1, crossed into my lane, and stopped. And just literally pulled out and just stopped in front of me. We had maybe a second and a half before impact. Mm-hmm. And we hit him, and it's 70 miles an hour. We had 3 of our 5 seatbelts fail in our 2-year-old vehicle. That shouldn't have even happened, but it did. And from what I was told from the attorneys, the gentleman that caused the crash had no memory of even getting in the car. He thought that he had been at the park, and that was the last memory that he'd had with his family. And he had no recollection of even getting in the car, much less the crash or anything. And when I saw him as I hit him, he was completely blank. He looked straight at me, and I looked straight at him as I hit him, and the guy was just blank, as if he was not even coherent. Just absolutely blank. And then I hit him. Yeah.
What happened to your husband in that crash?
He suffered a broken neck, massive leg injuries, internal injuries. My daughters were hurt too, broken back with my daughter, spinal cord was moved, broken neck, just really bad injuries. But due to doctor negligence, now my husband is terminal and will eventually pass away from an infection.
Oh no. Oh my God. You say you're not open to having any type of clergy come into the house, either a priest or something like that. Have you sought help elsewhere to try and deal with this paranormal presence? I mean, this is a real thing that's going on.
Yeah. More so to science. I'm trying a lot of people have come forward with theories on what happened, and that's what ended up leading me to write the second book, because this has been happening for so long. There's got to be some kind of explanation. Even we may not understand it now, but there's got to be something. this has been going on for too long. And, I've looked as scientifically wise. People have told me old wives' tales to use, whether it be salt around, all the entryways into the house. I mean, I'll do anything that I can, but bringing in clergy at this point terrifies me more because I saw what happened with my twin. Even though that's what I should be doing, you would think that anybody would say, hey, this is happening, you got to call, a priest in. But I saw what had happened. It made things so much worse. It made that thing so mad. It almost killed my daughter, and I know that it was behind the death of my twin, and I couldn't live with myself if it attached to one of my daughters. I couldn't live with that. So we're kind of stuck.
I understand what you're going through. It must be just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Folks, we're speaking with Jodi Polis. We're talking about a true haunting, a demonic haunting, for lack of a better way of putting it, that has taken place in her life and is ongoing, and she fears for the safety of her children, and her husband is terminal. She feels that that's part and parcel to what's been happening. Also, she lost her sister. God bless her. She feels her sister was possessed as well. 78 pounds, and she passed away.
She was 5'6". She wasn't short either. She was 5'6".
My God. What are you hoping for? Release from all this? And do you ask yourself, I'm certain you probably ask yourself, why me?
Yeah, I do. I wonder what was in that house that came after us. Why did it come after us and do what it did? And it did a lot of damage. It attacked me in that house, the original house that's in the picture. It attacked Tom, who was a family friend, numerous times, almost killed him.
What happened with Tom and yourself?
Well, Tom was living with us, and he was in the room across from us, so he actually witnessed just as much phenomenon in that house as we did. And he was splitting wood with a wedge and the axe that you split the wood with, a normal thing that you would do. Well, and he had done it numerous times. Well, he was splitting a big piece of wood, and all of a sudden we heard a yell, and we ran out to the porch to see why he was screaming, and he was on the ground. And it turns out that these wedges are solid steel. It turns out a piece had broken off of the wedge, and it had embedded itself into his arm, into his artery, and it was working its way to his heart. He only had maybe half an hour before it would have killed him. And so he went to the emergency room, and they had to find it before it got to his heart. Needless to say, they did find it, but like the doctor said, he'd never ever heard of a wedge breaking apart, much less finding its way to a main artery that would have killed him for sure. And that was something that was totally random and bizarre. And I was cut with a knife as if I had no way to stop it. Me and my sister had gotten to the point to where when we would hear things outside our door, we would jump out our window at night and stay outside at night in our treehouse instead of stay in our house. And that's how scared we were. We felt, because Tom, he was visiting us, and he would come and go. And when he was there, at least we felt safer when he was in the room across from us. But when he wasn't, we didn't want to be in the upstairs by ourselves. When you could hear things walking, you could hear things breaking, lights would turn on, all the lights would turn on upstairs. You could hear voices, and it was obvious paranormal. And so we would stay outside all night long before we would even sleep in our room. And there's wildlife out there. And so me and Jamie would sharpen sticks in case we came across something at night. And just made just something sharp just in case. And I was sharpening the edge of a stick, and for absolutely no explanation to me, it was as if I had no control, and I got the knife and I took it off the stick and I put it on my thumb and slit my thumb completely all the way open to the bone. And I sat there watching as I was cutting my thumb, and I couldn't stop it. And then I dropped it, and needless to say, I had to get a lot of stitches, and it was cut to the bone. But I didn't do that. I watched myself do it. It was the most bizarre thing. I've never had that happen again, but that was not me. I did not do that. It was as if I was viewing something happening to me. And then on the very last day in that house, it wasn't ironic, but we were leaving. It was literally the last load of furniture being removed from the house, and we weren't going back. Well, there was an antique barber's chair that came in 2 pieces, and we did not know it came in 2 pieces. When we purchased this chair, it came in 1 piece. Well, the gentlemen were all moving it into the back of the truck, and it came apart. And the base, which weighed probably a couple hundred pounds, landed on Tom's foot, crushing his foot. And he needed to go get stitches, rods put in his toes, and it was horrific. But it came in 1 piece. It broke apart. It was the last item being loaded into the back of the truck as we moved, and it crashed on his foot. And he was in Big Bear 2 months ago, and even he wouldn't go up there by that house, because he knows something's wrong with it too.
Is there anybody in that house now?
I don't know. I drove by there. Nothing's changed. It doesn't look like it's lived in, but it's been the same owners since we were children that still own it now. But it does not look like it's lived in.
You ever approached them and told a bit of your story, or send them a book?
I'd be afraid to. I mean, I'm so curious. I want to ask them what's going on. But when you read the book, you'll understand what's happened. I didn't realize that there was a pattern. Whenever I go by that house, something bad would happen. And I didn't know that. I'd never really put it together. And when I did, really bad things happened. Like, people were hurt. We, how do I say this without sounding? This whole entire story is just bizarre. It's bizarre. It's all true. And whenever I've gone to the house, I've seen someone told me there's a portal possibly in the house, a time portal. And when I go there, I see somebody, but I guess it's called a doppelganger.
Yes.
I don't know if you know what that is.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah.
I didn't know what that was until recently when somebody told me this. And I see a doppelganger every single time I've ever gone by the house. And I saw the doppelganger of my husband and my twin sister, and also from somebody else as well who it hasn't happened yet. But whenever I see the doppelganger, it's either their death or something that's going to cause them to die. And that's the picture that I sent you with my husband, with the bear paw print.
That's right. Yep. I'm just going to look for it right now. Also, you sent me a picture of your dog. The same thing. Yeah, the bear paw print. Here we go. What you're watching right now, folks. I should just tell you we're speaking with. Folks, we're speaking with Jodi Polis. Her book is called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. Without question, they're more than scary. They're terrifying. She's relating a story to us about her own life right now, folks, and it's just absolutely barbaric what has happened to her. www.nightfrightshow.com. Just click on tonight's guest book cover. That'll take you right to a spot where you can order the book from the comfort of your own home. I was going to ask you, when you're up around that area, is there anybody else with the same types of stories that may have been your neighbors, not really emanating from the house that you were in, but perhaps from the area itself?
I recently found out that a friend I did not know who lived in the area, as I did at the same time, he is going to get back to me on further details, but he did tell me that many nights he would hear like Indian chanting coming from the woods at night. And he lived right in the same area as me, and I didn't know that. And in the first book that I released, The Haunting in Big Bear Lake, that's more so about the actual house and what's been happening to our family. But the scary stories that I released, the second book, that put into perspective what happened with the Native Americans in Big Bear. And I think that, I don't know if land can be cursed or not, but if it can, Big Bear's been cursed for what has happened to the Native Americans. And the friend who lived in the area said that many, many nights you could hear like rituals going on in the forest. He had seen ghosts as well in houses that were abandoned, and lights that would be in the sky that shouldn't be. And so, yeah, other people did see things. A lot of people did.
What happened to the Native Americans that were in that area?
What happened was Big Bear was accidentally found during the gold rush, and some people.
1849, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, and a posse was looking for a specific Indian who had stolen some horses and cattle, and they accidentally found Big Bear. And when they did, they found gold, and amongst other things. And they found an area rich with bears and all sorts of wild game, and grizzly bears particularly. And over the course of maybe 25 years, they ended up killing probably 90% of the Indians that lived there.
Oh my God.
And literally annihilating the Native American population. And that's what's in the second book, is what I found the most intriguing, is that there's an area in Big Bear called the Eye of God. And the story goes,
I'm going to put the picture up right now, folks, that you can look at. Sure. Okay, so no problem. Tell us about the Eye of God, Jodi.
Okay, the Eye of God is a solid quartz formation in the form of an eye. And yes, that's all that's left of it now, okay? But what it was originally was the form of an eye, and the Serrano Indians, their creator, was dying. And when he died, and this formation formed. And this quartz formation was supposedly almost as tall as the World Trade Center towers, solid quartz. And I've learned now, I didn't even know what quartz really did. Now I understand that it's, the magnetism and how it works. But I guess when there's quartz, there's also usually gold. So when the pioneers came up there, they saw the quartz, and they automatically thought that must be the mother lode of all gold. And so the Indians were told that they were going to blow up their heritage, where their creator died, at the top of this gigantic quartz foundation. And so there was a showdown between the pioneers and the Indians, and the Indians lost. And there was just an absolute massacre. And then after that, I've got pictures on Facebook as well, and there's still, you can see the blast holes from the dynamite, but they reduced it down to nothing. And if it was as tall as the World Trade Center tower, then I've been told by scientists that it would be equivalent to basically being a giant antenna, is what it would be. It would be like an amplifying antenna.
Oh,
and that just goes into a whole nother theory on itself.
Yeah.
But I think that something had to do with their creator and just destroying that foundation of that rock. And when I released this book, I was told about I'm calling it the Big Bear Demon, because I don't know what to call it.
I think that's a pretty apropos name for it, actually, Jodi.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, given the history of this thing and what it's done, and by the way, folks, I'm going to show you a picture that Jodi took up in Big Bear, and I'm just getting it out now, and this is terrifying. When I saw it, I just could not believe it. Absolutely terrifying. Many people will say, oh, it's just shadows and make-believe and stuff like that. There's something there, folks. The picture you're looking at right now, you can see the demonic face. That's evil. That's just a picture of pure evil. In another photo I'm going to show you, folks, there's another one. I call it the Ring of Fire photo. That's absolutely amazing as well. I mean, you see this whole fire circle. You mentioned you mentioned Native Americans. It looks like there was a fire circle right there or something, right in the middle of the street, the highway.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You must be so angry. Do you ever call out at the demons and say, kiss my and you can
I do.
Good for you. Good for you.
I do.
Yeah.
When something flies across, or if I trip and I catch myself against the wall, I do. I'll say you missed, or didn't work this time, and I do. Yeah, I've learned not to be as scared. I just I use anger more than anything now.
A demonologist told me once, you can take this or leave it, that they feed off of fear. You must be so angry. I mean, they've taken so much from you and are still causing you grief. Is there any chance the prognosis of your husband can be mistaken?
No.
Ah, God.
No, just 2 days ago, his fever was 103.5, and we were lucky to break it, and I didn't lose him. At any given time, he'll just develop an infection with the fever, and either he'll survive the infection with the antibiotics or he won't. And just 2 days ago, it hit again, and we didn't know if we were going to lose him or not. So we pray and hope for the most length amount of time as we can, because we have young daughters as well.
Yes.
And this whole thing is just cruel. Just absolutely cruel.
People often ask, does evil exist? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Without question. It's a real entity, isn't it? Do you keep a Bible in the house?
Many
Bibles
in the house. I think I've got one in probably every room.
Do you think that helps? Do you think that helps at all, or?
I'm a Christian myself. Our children are Christians as well. I think it must.
You pissed off at God? It seems to me I would be.
Confused as why. Well, I've really been doing a lot of thinking about it. When my twin had that computer monitor over my daughter's head, I look back now, maybe God saved my daughter and stopped it from smashing it into her head. And I should be grateful that it didn't. I am grateful it didn't, because it was about to. And so maybe God has intervened to where things were going to be a lot worse than they already are, so horrible now, but maybe they were going to be worse. Like the crash, we shouldn't have survived the crash. The 70-mile-an-hour crash with 3 seatbelts that fail, you shouldn't survive that. And the bodily damages are really bad, but we lived. So I try to look at it as maybe God has made things from being worse than they already are.
So I love your optimism. I think it's contagious. I think that's absolutely wonderful. You've been dragged down into the pit, and maybe that's why, I don't know, maybe, the demonologist and a priest has once told me that God only gives you what you can handle, and the more holy you are, the more the demons want to attack you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that there could be some validity in that as well. I'm not sure. It comes back to the question, why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your biggest fear now?
Well, the biggest fear now is losing my husband, which is going to be the inevitable. That, that's the most traumatizing thing, because losing my twin was already hard enough. When you're an identical twin, there's something so disturbing about bearing somebody that looks identical to you. And then the way that it went down, the whole thing was just horrible. And knowing that my husband is going to succumb eventually to this is just as difficult to handle. So that's my biggest fear. Beyond that would be that I don't even want to speak it and give credence to it, but I don't want a repeat of what happened with my sister with my children. And so I don't, that is my ultimate biggest fear, is that it attaches to one of my children.
I can understand that wholeheartedly without question. What are some of the stories from your book? The book is called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. Our guest tonight is Jodi Polis. Easy way to get her book is www.nightfrightshow.com. Click on tonight's guest book cover, and that'll take you right to a spot where you can order it from the comfort of your own home. What are some of the stories you found out that kind of parallel and give credence, I guess I could say, or validity to what happened to you? Are there similar stories, or are they not quite as profound, not quite as deep?
A lot of people have come for this subject in general. Only recently has it even been acceptable for people to even come forward and say, hey, I lived in a house where things like this happened. You're going to be looked at and marked as, you know what I'm saying.
I know.
People are going to look at you differently when, ostracized, that's the word. And I knew when I wrote this book that was going to happen. And a lot of the people, actually all the people in the second book, wanted to remain anonymous because they knew that I'd been ostracized. But they wanted it out there. They had gone through things as well. I have many emails from people who lived in haunted houses as well and had really scary things happen to them. But they've remained anonymous, and they do not want their stories put in publication, which I honored that and did not. What I do find interesting is that there's a specific area in Big Bear called Baldwin Lake. Now that's where the Eye of God is as well. That seems to be the mecca of where a lot of the paranormal is. That's actually very dangerous. I didn't even know about this. I have one person in there who was an EMT, and this person had been called to a site of a crash in Baldwin Lake, right where the Ring of Fire is. I took that picture because that's where the lady in white was seen in that area, right there.
What's the lady in white? I don't know what the lady in white is. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. The lady in white is somebody who runs out from behind the trees right at the last second at night. And then the people, you have two choices. You either you go straight, which they don't. Everyone swerves. Yeah. And then they crash into the tree or roll into the forest. And so that's what happens right there on that particular stretch of road that all the pictures were taken on. And the lady in white, I didn't even know we had that up there. But the EMT went with the rest of the paramedic team to a crash site, and the people in the car were just absolutely hysterical, screaming, crying, saying, "We hit her, we hit her." And so search and rescue was called out to look for whoever this lady in white was. She had a long white gown. No lady was found. And that was the first call that she and the team had gone to. And needless to say, there was another call in Baldwin Lake on this road again. Another car had crashed. And again, the people said the same thing. A lady in white had ran out in front of them, and they had crashed their car. And that's where they were responding. Same thing. A lady in white just jumps out instantly in front of their car. And each person had said that they had hit her. And after I think it was the third time that this EMT had gone to the site, actually quit being EMT because of that. It was too terrifying to keep going to the location.
Oh
yeah, so cost. Yeah.
So it's right there. It's documented. This is a true haunting, folks. Talk about pure evil. Oh, this is just getting scarier and scarier. What possessed you to write the book? And possessed is a bad word to use. Why the book? Why both books? Was it a way to try and warn people, I guess, that there is evil out there?
Yeah. People that know our family have seen us in the last since my twin has died. They have seen us go through so many things that are not normal. My husband's had strokes, just so many bizarre things that people actually are looking at us odd. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to release the book so that people stop wondering why our luck is so bad. It has nothing to do with bad luck. Because that's what people would joke around. I've been called Miss Job from the Bible. They call me Miss Job because things are so bad and we go through so many tribulations. People have said if it wasn't for luck, you'd have no luck at all. And it's just to the point to where I thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw it out there. I want people to understand luck has nothing to do with what our family's gone through in the last 7 years. And you're all going to know a whole lot more about our life and our family. And that's why I released the first book. I had no intention of ever writing another second. But I had such a huge outpouring from locals that I knew and did not know that said, this is what happened to us, that I decided, you know what, they want their stories told.
That's right.
I want to show that, hey, there's something seriously wrong in this town. And that's why I released the second one, so that it kind of shows, it's not just me. There's so many more people in that town.
Jodi, in the email you sent me that I read at the beginning, you said that things have been covered up and they only let a certain amount of things get out about Big Bear. Do you want to stop? Are you okay?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. What are some of those things that they that you feel that they're trying to cover up? Is it just pure evil and they just want to keep the money rolling in? Is it just pure opportunity exploitation on their part?
Absolutely.
Completely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
There's been buildings that have burned down that shouldn't. One of the locations that when I grew up, it was called Pan Hot Springs Swimming Pool. And growing up there, none of us knew what the history was behind the swimming pool. But it turns out that the swimming pool, for all of us locals, was built on a Indian sacred ground. It was a hot spring. And when they got rid of the Native Americans there, they came and built a pool, a 4-star resort on there, and built it on sacred ground. Well, the property burned down. One of the huge buildings burned down, then another one burned down, and then we had a huge earthquake that destroyed the pool altogether. And looking back now, they came in, a lot of people came in and took over land that was sacred, and they knew it was sacred, and they built upon it. Needless to say, it ended up burning to the ground. Lots of locations did. And if that was out, especially in those days, like maybe the 20s to the 40s, people probably would have stopped going there. And so, yeah, they definitely kept things quiet.
Jeez. That just sounds diabolical, what they did. Absolutely. Folks, our guest tonight is Jodi Polis. Her book is called Scary Stories of Big Bear Lake. Easy way to get the book, as always, folks. www.nightfrightshow.com. Just click on tonight's guest book cover. That'll take you right to a spot where you can order this book from the comfort of your own home. Also, I meant to tell you before, a doppelganger, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, is a double. Essentially, it's a double that it's a paranormal double that every time it's seen, it could be a double of yourself, of somebody you know. When you see it, it's not the person that you know, it's a paranormal double, and usually something bad happens after one of these things is sighted. It's kind of like a Mothman thing, if you will, and we'll talk about Mothman on another show without question. I just want to show a few more of these pictures. This is Jodi and her husband. And do you want to say a few words about your husband? He's a cutie pie.
Yeah, he is. He's a good man. Poor thing, he's gone through the ringer. That was the night that we were told that they didn't expect him to make it. That's when the doctors did the error and gave him an infection that will eventually kill him. And I stayed with him all night long while he was in shock. The doctors didn't think that he would make it, and he woke up in the morning. And I prayed all night, and he woke up, and I took that photo. I had the nurse take the photo that he made it. And even though, and he's in so much pain, he's in the pain of if you had cancer and you were terminal in the last stages, that's the pain he's in for the rest of his life while he is alive.
Is he in the hospital right now, or is he at home?
No, he's home. He's home.
Okay.
But every day for him is the pain equivalent to that, and they can't stop the pain. They can take the edge off. But that photo was significant to say, hey, I saw the doppelganger of what that picture, was, and it didn't get him. But what it did do is, it is going to still take his life, in the end. And there's the story in there behind that about the surgery and the significance of a bear paw print and what white T-shirts meant. But you need to read the stories to understand what they mean.
Fair enough.
The doppelgangers, thank you for saying that, because that was very well put, what they do, what they are.
Thank you. Yeah, they're very well, what's the word I'm looking for? Recounted, documented, these doppelgangers. It's a German word. It means double walker, if you will. And they've been around forever. As long as demons have been around, as long as the paranormal's been around, which is from the time we all started, I suspect. There's another photo here, one that's 100-year-old graveyard.
Yeah, that That is where, did you listen to the EVP that I got on my cell phone?
It scared the bejesus out of me.
Me
Yeah.
too, and it's still on my cell phone. That was, okay, I was told by a scientist, because like I said, I'm looking for scientific reasons behind this as well.
Okay.
And I explained to him the layout and the courts and just the geographics of the area. And he told me that when I went there to take pictures, because I wanted people to see with their eyes what's in the book. And he told me, you better have a lot of batteries, because if this area is what you say it is, he goes, your batteries are going to be useless. And I didn't, and I listened to him. I charged everything, and I brought extra batteries. And I went up there. Sure enough, I turned my camera on. I got 2 photos. It died. Then I tried to put batteries in it. It wouldn't even work. Then I got my iPod, and I went to turn it on. Dead. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I just drove all the way up here to take photos just to put on the internet, and nothing's working. So I broke out the trusty cell phone, and then that's when I took the pictures. And that's when I took the video of the graveyard, and I had no idea that I had an EVP even on that, because I hadn't listened to it. I just recorded it, and a friend of mine, I sent her some of the pictures and the video, and she called me and said, you've got something on there.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I did, and it's on my cell phone, and I hate it.
Can you tell the folks what it said?
It says, now this is the interesting part. It's very clear. It says, get your cradle. But there's 2 different ways to spell. It could be saying cradle or cradle with an EL.
Okay.
Now, both words have significant different meanings. And one could be as simple as get your cradle, like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other one could be something as if it's like a doctrine, whether it's a Bible or just some kind of doctrine. And we'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally how it would be spelled, which is something we'll never know. But you heard the EVP. It's crystal clear.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And folks, I'm going to try and edit it into the show. And hopefully, maybe we'll end with that. We're going to have to start to wrap up anyways. Jodi,
Yeah.
I want to bless you and give you all the blessings, and you're in my prayers for sure. Please do stay in touch. Let us know how things are going, and I do hope and pray that if your husband must leave, it is many, many, many years from now.
Thank you.
Let's hope things turn around there. Thank you for the courage for writing these books and coming on the show and telling the truth. There are many people afflicted as you are, and the more people that come forward, the more perhaps we can find a solution to these things.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, that's what I would hope to come out of this. It would be nice to know that.
Absolutely. Folks, I'm Brent Holland from Night Fright. Thank you all for watching and listening. See you next time.
Listening to Night Fright and your host, Brent Holland. The time is now. Your voice in the dark for paranormal and conspiracy